Thanks for coming on the podcast. Do you just want to give us a quick introduction on you and your business, and then we'll take it from there?
Sure. I'm Rob Woodhead. I run a business called Old Street Labs. We are a software development agency. Myself and my business partner started the business in pretty much 5 years ago at the beginning of the pandemic. And our team is all in the Philippines. So we have now 45 people in the Philippines across design and development, testing, and everything else that you want in a software development agency.
Very good. Before we go into All Street Labs and what it's doing now, do you just want to take us on a very quick tour of your career before then, and then sort of go into what led you to starting the business?
Sure. I started out life in finance. I worked for a corporate finance house and then private equity in total for about 11, 12 years. And towards the end of my time, I was living and working in New York, which was great fun, but the job was pretty hard and hectic. And I was thinking at the end of that time, I'd like to get into kind of entrepreneurship, more kind of early stage businesses. And so I took a leap out of that world in 2015, 2016, and moved back to the UK and kind of was looking around at different opportunities in that kind of early stage business space. I managed to meet the guy who started the first fully electric taxi company, and ended up helping him build some tech around the transition of fleets from petrol to electric. To cut my teeth in product creation, made a whole load of mistakes in how to build products, how to run a remote team, all those good things. Sadly, at the beginning of the pandemic, that went south for various reasons. And then at that point, I got in contact with my old friend who I'd started work with back in 2004-ish. And that was Rob, who's my business partner, the two Robs. And he'd kind of started to think about the idea for Old Street Labs, this idea of outsourcing tech in a better way for early stage businesses and SMEs. And yeah, I joined him and we thought, right, let's just do one project. Let's see if we can get this off the ground. And we're 5 years later and a number of projects and a number of developers later. So yeah, that's the kind of rough story.
Very good. First thing that sticks out is starting a business in 2020, which I'm sure was interesting. I don't even know dates these days when it started or what. Is that mid-pandemic or is it just before?
It was right at the start. So the pandemic started in March 2020.
Right.
And I messaged Rob saying in about middle of April, saying, okay, I don't have a job. The pandemic's on. Got any jobs for me? And there's a bit of a famous picture that I sent him because I was on a family Zoom call at the time with a squid hat on, trying to amuse my nieces. And I said, "What if things come to that? I'm sitting here in my living room with a squid hat on." Anyway, that photo's come back to bite me a few times. And he was like, well, I'm in the same position. He was running a business in restaurant tech, a company called City Munch, which was real-time discounting for restaurants, which was doing quite well. But obviously, similarly to my business, the pandemic really hit it hard. But what he'd done is he'd managed to find 3 or 4 good developers from the Philippines. And the one thing that we were talking about was how good they were and how high quality they were versus some of the other places we'd gone, and looked at development teams or worked with development teams. And so it was a case of, well, if these guys are good and we think we can find some potential clients, then we might have some sort of business here. So that's when we started. It was a hypothesis which took us 3 or 4 months to kind of really say, actually, no, there are some people who want to work with us. And we kind of brought this idea of, well, we're startup founders. We're coming with that understanding and knowledge, and then we're bringing this kind of high quality but kind of lower cost development. And so that really worked well with some startup founders we met.
What so what were you delivering for clients, and you mentioned startups, but was that as for like a specific industry, or was it ones that you were familiar with, or was it just everyone and anyone?
Um, that's a good question. We were quite broad to start with, because we thought we could, we weren't really sure what we could do, and so we're trying to figure out where we would sit. We thought we might niche. We started off in the corporate world because that's where we both had understanding. So we looked at the legal industry, we looked at fintech, but quite, through networking and talking to people kind of who we knew, and they kind of started to introduce us to other people. We realized that niching in an industry that wasn't what we needed to do. What we needed to do was get good at delivering, web applications, mobile applications, and then we could apply that across industries, and that's been true up until now. We've never really gone into one specific industry. We've done quite a lot in education, in healthcare, we've done some finance stuff, we have done some legal stuff, we've done some non-for-profit, but it hasn't, the industry hasn't been the niche. It's more been build the product really well. And that means that you can apply that. You can apply a web application, the ability to do that across industries.
What's the so, and so you mentioned like getting a few clients, like networking and speaking to people. How do you do that in COVID?
That was that's a good question again. I drew on and we both drew on our networks, and went out to them and said, if you hear of anyone, that would be great if you could pass them on. We did a lot of talking to people, a lot of kind of virtual coffees. We saw that talking to technical people, so fractional CTOs, that type of
Yeah.
person, the people who deal with lots of different businesses on a fractional basis, that was helpful as well. So we lent into that. And yeah, we put ourselves on directories. So there's various directories you can get on which help kind of naturally get you up in SEO, because they're already quite high when people search for software development agencies. We realize you have to spin a lot of plates, and there's no one silver bullet for getting clients. You need to try in lots of different areas and keep on trying, because one day it might come from one area, another from another. So you have to be across as many as you can.
I want to touch on like the team and the you mentioned that the 40 odd based out in the Philippines, and it's interesting because a lot of people can avoid saying that, if that makes, because it looks like you've just gone cheap, but I know from experience that it's like there's some very, very talented people out there, and it's cost effective as well. But how do you come across the talent and find the talent in the Philippines in the first place?
So I think Rob found them through Upwork initially. It was a bit of a lucky find. I kind of mentioned earlier that it was, they're lower cost. The quality is the real draw.
Yep.
So yeah, so Rob found them initially through Upwork. He was very lucky to find this guy, Dennis. Dennis is 25 years in the industry, has worked in a bunch of different countries, and therefore brings with him, an amazing experience to bear on our team. He's the kind of father of the group, if you will. So we were lucky to start with him. But then we realized that the communication is fantastic. So the level of English in the Philippines is really good. They were a colony of the US for 100 years. So, and at the end of that, the Americans had this program to bring teachers over to the Philippines, and so the education system there is very good. So that's a massive bonus to be able to communicate with someone easily and eloquently. We then spent a long time interviewing, so we must have done about 400 or 500 interviews in that first couple of years. And through doing something over and over again, you kind of start to get a bit better at it and understand, okay, you start to see things a bit better. We then lent into it in a way where I went and spent time in the Philippines, and realized that we were getting really good talent kind of from a junior level, and we were getting some reasonably good talent at the senior level where that was much harder to find. So I spent a lot of time in the Philippines going to the universities, talking to them, setting up relationships with the top universities in both in Manila, Cebu, and some other cities. Setting up hackathons so that we could identify talent through that method, giving prizes to academic excellence and things like that, so that we could create a brand as an employer in the Philippines, which is very strong, and attract the best talent. And so yeah, so it's that has been a big part of the business is that side. We also make sure they're looked after. Our churn rate is very low. The industry is somewhere between 30 and 40% churn of most software agencies. Ours is less than 5% because we pay them well, we give them healthcare, we do all the things which a full-time good employer would do in the UK, but they don't necessarily get in the Philippines. We try and do fun things as well, like having pizza nights and quiz nights, just to have a bit more of a camaraderie within an offshore team.
Very good. Yeah. Do you, do you ever find that it's like I said, people can sometimes avoid or pretend that they don't like look for labor abroad and use it like I said, I know that firsthand that it's like it's brilliant. There's some brilliant people out there. And do you ever find that if you're competing for business, like harms your chances of winning that business versus like somebody that's fully based in the UK?
Yeah, interesting question. I think there have certainly been times when people have said we would rather things were done in the UK or locally. People who have, they have a grant and it's stipulated that it needs to be done in the UK, or their level of security is such that they need it to be done here. Otherwise, not really. I think we offer, it's very difficult to run a development agency in the UK. I think at the moment, the cost of developers is so high, driven by the big tech businesses. I mean, that's come off a bit in recently with them kind of firing a lot of people, but it's still expensive to buy, developer time in the UK, whereas you can get as good quality tech, but at a fraction of the price in other countries. But that comes with difficulties. That comes with communication difficulties. It comes with, cultural differences. And so that's why we built Old Street, was to kind of overcome that piece of it, so that you could go and use, you could find good talent abroad, but get past some of the issues which normally are associated with it.
Good stuff. Do you only are they the team in the Philippines? Are they only developers or do they go into other roles as well?
So we have designers, really, really good designers. We have testers, so we kind of back up our development with good QA testers, and then we've got the rest of the team around that. So we have HR and we have kind of operations and stuff. But yeah, it's predominantly it's developers. Yeah.
Awesome. Do you want to bring us up to date then in terms of maybe give us some examples of the work that you're doing now? What a business would usually come to you for, if there is one specific like common pain point, if you like. But yeah, just go into like what the business does now and who it's serving.
Sure. So I guess we started off life catering to startups, but we've kind of developed, graduated a little bit into kind of small and medium-sized enterprises as well. Our normal work is building products from scratch. So people come to us with, we have this problem and this is the solution we're thinking about. We'd love to build it. What's an example of that? An example of that is a company called East Care. They're an early stage business in the care industry. They wanted to build a platform to help care organizations to develop their carers, because the care industry has a real problem with carers leaving after a very short amount of time, a huge churn rate in carers. And they found that providing them with a personal development plan really increased the stickiness of these carers within the care organizations, which is better for the care they gave and everything else. So we helped them build a platform which allowed the managers to help them have this personal development plan, show them what training they needed, show them where they lacked skills, but also where they had good skills, and therefore is kind of really, really helpful in terms of managing the care organization. And they are scaling right now. So we deployed that, and they're hopefully going to come back and build version 2 pretty soon. But yeah, they've run some really good pilots, and they're now kind of hoping to scaling up. So that's an example of a startup, I guess. We also do so that's we also do kind of mobile apps. So an example of that is a company called Asan. Asan is a period tracker app. So it's for women to track their periods on. It's combined with a cup, so you can measure flow, and there's a huge amount of data which you can get from that, and also predictive analytics on. And that's been proven so far to be very, very helpful to people. That's again just been released, and so it's hopefully going to be growing really well from now on. Yeah, that's a couple of examples of what we do. We also not only build products but also help augment teams. So something that we've been doing more recently is putting developers within existing teams to help them to kind of scale faster and grow faster as well.
Very good. Is that people from your internal team are doing a bit like recruitment?
No, internal team. I think that's the thing we've seen. We come to it organically. Some of our customers have grown, done really well, starting to build their own tech team, but said, actually, the guy that was working on the product, let's keep him because we really like him. He knows it inside out. And so that shifts more from a project-based piece to team augmentation. And what we found is you can't just let someone go. You can't recruit someone and let someone go. They need to have some scaffolding around them, some help around them, so that they're not completely left to get on with it from their own devices. There is the cultural piece of teaching the client how to talk to a Filipino developer and get the most out of them. That's something which I take on. So we don't just recruit and put people in. It's very much like they're part of our team that goes in.
So I guess there's like two business models for you. So like the project work that you do, and then you've got the ongoing consultancy / integrated teams.
Yes, yeah. The second piece is more of a growing part of the business at the moment. Yeah.
At what point did you start to introduce that?
As I said, it was kind of an organic thing because some of our customers were growing, building their own teams. The natural thing would be just to say goodbye to us and for them to move on in the world. But because we built the product, because we had great knowledge of it, and they liked working with the team, they just took people on. And so now we're kind of offering it out to people beyond just our existing clients.
Very good. Okay, we'll come back to like the growth of the business and like business development. So we started off in the middle of COVID, trying to like unlocking networks, if you like. What has been the main driver of growth over the last 5 years? Has it been that network and referrals, or has there been some like going out and getting the business?
It's varied, and it's been a case of spinning plates in many different directions. To begin with, it was very much network based, and it was kind of founder driven networking, which often is quite a lot of startups start that way. But it's shifted into we've done so the directories I spoke about earlier, being in directories and playing the game of paying to be the best in the UK at software development. We also do we've done some email marketing, which has been, you have to find out how to do that properly and get the right people on board to do that, because that's quite tough to do without just blind. We've done some cold calling, which has not had create some interesting conversations, but hasn't been super fruitful. We've done some kind of paid advertising, again, not hugely beneficial, but has brought in a few things. And then we've done some kind of the softer stuff. So creating networks in the startup community. So I run a network of startup founders that meet monthly. I also participate in various different other networks which kind of grow personal brand, but also the business brand. And so you're seen as someone to go to. And also connections with those fractional CTOs. So I've kind of grown out a group of fractional CTOs, which have really benefited me in terms of bringing potential projects to me, because they trust me and they say, right, I've architected this product. Now I need someone to build it. So I can hopefully step into most of those situations.
Very good. What What do you think what has been the biggest challenge? You mentioned like trying a bit of everything. Has because like the relationships and the networking with the CTOs you get, um, like that's really good to have, and like the best sort of business to come in because
For sure.
they know you and they trust you, but it's unpredictable at the same time. What has that been a struggle at times to sort of get that consistent new lead flow when trying all of these different things?
Yeah, 100%. And you also fall into the trap of, okay, you're busy and you forget
Yeah,
to do the BD.
we don't do it.
And you forget to do
Business
it
is
for three
flying. We don't
months.
need to do anything.
Yeah, or you just don't have time, right?
Yeah.
You're running the business. You're doing the business, um, and yeah, just being conscious of that. I think we fell foul of that in the first couple of years, and we'd have these peaks and troughs. And if you put effort into the spinning plates, then it comes off. It's unpredictable, but as long as you're doing enough, it tends to be all right. Um, I think it's also got easier over time. I think having social proof, so having, the fact that we've got a lot of reviews, the fact that we've got products out there that we can say, look, that we built this, it takes the risk out of our clients choosing us. I think when we first started, it was a bit of a risk for people to go, okay, I trust you to build this product. This is really important to my business. Whereas now, I think we can point to a few things and introduce our old clients, and that's a much makes the sell easier. Um, but again, there's no silver bullet we found, and so there was always a slight concern of, okay, well, if we need to keep on doing the BD, we need to keep on pushing in different directions in order to make sure the business is coming in, and trying to get out of running, like doing the business every day, and actually kind of working on the business, not in the business as much as possible, which I'm sure you've heard before from other founders.
Yeah, definitely. What does your day to day look like now?
Um, so Yeah, so the Philippines is 7 hours ahead, so I have an early start. I'm talking to them about the projects, what's going on with the projects, where our issues are lying, what I need to focus on from their perspective. We have a fantastic bunch of business analysts and project managers who we've kind of handed a lot of the day-to-day of the projects off to, and that's made my life in the last year and a half much easier. Um, then it's a case of, okay, well, focus on the internal stuff to begin with, make sure that's all ticking nicely, and then, okay, what are the pieces to look at externally? So today we've just been reviewing the website, making sure that that's up to scratch, especially with the new kind of themes we're coming across at the moment in AI. Trying to think about how we layer that into the website and the messaging we have externally. Um, I also do kind of BD calls, so those are often set up when the Filipinos have gone to bed. So 2-3 p.m. I'm starting to do quite a lot of calls with potential customers and doing the selling, trying to keep the energy high for when speaking to them. So
You you just touched on AI, then I know we want to go into it a bit more. I guess from somebody that's not an expert in your line of work, but the main thing at the minute and talking to others is like we can press a few buttons now and create some apps. How are you dealing with that? Is it a risk or is it a risk yet? I know people say that it's got a long way. It has come a long way, but it's got even further to go before you can start doing that. What are your thoughts on it, and where do you see it going in the next few years?
um, so the way we're seeing AI hit our business is twofold. One is with inbound from people saying, I know that this is something I need to incorporate into my business. Can you help me do that? And so we're doing that, right? We built 3 or 4, or in the process of building 3, 4, 5 products which incorporate large language models into them, and so therefore businesses can harness the text-based data they have and do some interesting things with it. So in terms of building with it, we're doing that, and that's a net positive to the business. The trickier part is what you've identified, which is the products out there where you can prompt something and it produces the beginnings of a web application. So those ones are a different beast, and so it's at the moment it's trying to strategize about where we can go with it and what the future looks like when it's really good. At the moment, the testing we've done, they are pretty good at doing basic things. In fact, they're very good at doing basic stuff. So what we've found is that prototyping and getting to a very simple working product can be much, much, much faster and therefore much cheaper for our clients. But our clients aren't necessarily spending the hours figuring out how to do it properly. And also, if they're non-technical, they can't dig into the code that it's creating and say, right, well, I can tweak this and tweak that and make it into a fully working product. So we're seeing ourselves as a bit of as long as we're on top of it and ahead of the kind of the rest of the world, then we can hopefully guide our clients into incorporating it into their businesses, reducing the amount of cost and spend time it does to build something, and then that makes that, if you think about where that goes in the future, that potentially is a really interesting point at which, at the moment, there's a lot of businesses out there which, especially small enterprises, don't want to build custom software because it's too expensive for them to build custom software to solve the problems they have. So what they do is they get off the shelf software as a service. They pay monthly a small amount, but they pay forever and ever, amen. What this potentially could do is they could actually build custom software at the same or at a cheaper price than they can at the moment. And it could come down to the point where they don't need to use the one size fits all software. They can actually build software for themselves, or get someone like us to help them do that, and therefore solve their problems and have very niched, very tailored software for them. And that becomes really interesting, that you can then, if you think of an SME and all the problems they face, if they had a partner like us who could say, right, very quickly, we can solve those with custom software, that could be interesting. That's probably the golden end of the spectrum for where this lands. The other end is it's a tough place to be, because the software can build tech pretty quickly. It's moving so fast. 12 months is a long time. 5 years is a hell of a long time. So it's very difficult to tell. We're hoping that we can be part of the future and part of where it goes. But, who knows? At the moment, the products can't do exactly what we do yet.
Yeah.
That's the main point, I think.
Yeah, I think there's always that. You can pretty much look at any service-based business, and there is a solution out there that you could do yourself, but it's the awareness of people knowing how to do it and like actually doing it. I don't think there's too much to worry about. If it gets to a point where you can say, build me this, and it just does it like straight away in one sentence, then it's probably quite worrying.
Yeah.
But like I said, the way that I see it right now, I don't see people. Well, people are lazy anyway. I just don't see that or not everybody's going to be able to do that, or not, or want to do that, or even like I said, do it basically.
Yeah, I think that's the. So I read this article the other day, and I can't remember the person who wrote it, but it's talking about the advent of the iPhone and how that at that point, photography changed. So photography before was, if you were very good, you had all the equipment, and you made you spent some time learning it and understanding it and so on. You were very good, and then the iPhone came out, and anyone could take a very, very good photo. But and so the work for the photographers did diminish, and there's still photographers out there, but things like Instagram turned up, and whole new industries arose from the ability to produce like very high quality good stuff, a lot of. So it could be that's where software goes. There could be a lot of people producing a lot of software, and people who spend time doing it. The majority of people are lazy and want to stay in their lane, and they're good at something, and they don't want to necessarily have to learn a whole new skill in order to deliver the business. So yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting place. We're trying to stay on top of it as much as we can. Every now and again, my business partner and I have an existential crisis about where the business goes. But at the moment, we're feeling fairly positive about it, especially this prototyping piece and becoming like a long-term partner for people to solve their problems.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything else that you want to touch
on? Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't. The communities that I'm part of are quite interesting, and so if are there any founders out there? I run one, and you're going to laugh at the name, but it's Tech Startups in the Pub.
Mm.
And it does what it says in the tin. So we meet monthly in London, and we get somewhere between 60 and 100 people turn up every month. And I'd say, 33% is returning people who've come before,
Mm.
and the rest are people who are interested in the ecosystem of tech startups. And that is always fascinating. And we get like some really interesting conversations there. It's purely networking. There's no panels and there's no talks or anything like that. And that's been really nice. We've been running that for nearly 3 years now. So that's a positive thing that's come out of, well, at the end of COVID, but also me trying to network. And the other one is I shall be running a pitching stage at Rare Founders in April. So Rare Founders is another community more focused on helping startups fundraise, and they have a demo day, a big demo day for some 100 or so founders and a bunch of investors in the same room on the 25th of April. So I'll give Vasily and Freya a shout out for that, because I think I might be hosting a few of the pitching events.
Very good. And is fundraising something that you like well versed in? 'Cause I'm definitely not.
Um, It's interesting. So my background's in finance, right? So I worked in private equity for many years, so I understand the world. The world of venture capital is a little beyond me. I've never, I've been around it for the last however long during the startup kind of era, and I've seen a lot of people go through the process. It's hard. There are other ways to raise money as well. You can get grant money, you can bootstrap, you can do all sorts of other things. I'm not particularly well versed, or I don't feel qualified to give a huge amount of advice in that arena. No, but I know some people who can. So if anyone wants to chat about it, then I'm very happy to push you in the right direction.
Awesome. Well, Rob, if people like the sound of what you've just spoken about and want to reach out or go to your networking events, where can they find that, and where can they find you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, Rob Woodhead, on LinkedIn. Very happy to connect with people. Our event is called Tech Startups in the Pub and is on Meetup, and the Rare Founders event, I think it's on Luma, I believe. And yeah, Rare Founders, RARE Founders. So there you go.
Awesome. Any links that you can send over, I'll put them in the description for
Fantastic.
anyone interested. But yeah, it's been good speaking, and I always say this to people that speak about the AI stuff. We'll have to do it again in a year and see. Yeah,
2 months.
so,
We'll do it in 2 months. Yeah.
yeah, and see where you're at. Hopefully, it becomes a bonus to you and not a hindrance, if you like.
Yeah, that's yeah, touch wood. That's always
Awesome. Cheers, Rob.
great. Thanks, Tom.